The Dragon's Son, the Ghost's Coffin. Chapter 1, The Year of the Dragon. On February 2nd, the day the dragon raised its head, my mom gave birth to me. I was born with black birthmarks all over my body. The village godmother said that they were dragon scales, freaks, and ominous people who would bring disaster to the village, and she told my mom to throw me into the Yellow River to feed the Dragon King. My mom naturally disagreed. I didn't die, but the godmother did. She fell into the Yellow River and drowned. Her body was gnawed on by the fish, leaving only white bones. I was born at night, and that night there was a once-in-a-century downpour of rain, lightning, and thunder, and strangely enough, when I croaked, the rain suddenly stopped. That night something strange also happened in my house. Countless black shadows surrounded my house, the wind roared, and in the darkness there were countless glowing eyes staring viciously at my house. A hoarse voice in the darkness roared towards my house, "A dragon-born child is a great tonic, eat this child and we will be transformed. Charge, snatch that child and eat it. Unbridled." My mom shouted angrily, scaring those things in the darkness back 3 miles. My mom warned again, "If anyone dares to touch a hair on my son's head, I'll exterminate his entire clan, get out." At once everything outside ran away in a puff of smoke, not daring to stay for a minute. My mom came from a mysterious background and no one knew who she really was. My dad was a corpse fisherman on the Yellow River, and my mom was a crazy woman he fished out of the river. At the time, she was insane, babbling, and had become delirious. My dad saw that my mom was too beautiful, so he rounded on her. Something weird happened. In the middle of the night that day my mom actually came back to her senses and yelled that she was going to kill my dad. My dad couldn't beat her, so he kowtowed to my mom for the rest of the night, and then my mom lived with my dad because of the horror of the dragon scales on my body. The children in the village didn't want to play with me, calling me a monster and ostracizing me. My mom didn't dislike me and rubbed my body with incense ash mixed with vermilion every day. I used to ask my mom when I realized why I had dragon scales on my body. Am I a freak? My mom, however, said that I was born of a dragon and was born to be extraordinary. My dad left when I was 5 years old and my mom pulled me up by herself. A widow's door is full of wrongs, and since my mom was young and beautiful, there were many people who had crooked ideas about her. During the time my dad was gone, people used to come and climb in my window at night, and all of them ended up seriously ill the next day, covered in abscesses and miserable. And then after that, no one dared to hit on my mom. It wasn't until I was 10 years old that all the dragon scales on my body disappeared. Since then, my mom has been teaching me some strange skills, such as talismans and incantations, feng shui and geomancy, and strange astrological signs. Also from that time on, my mom would prepare some special herbs to wash my eyes, which she said would open my heavenly eyes. My mom said that I am a genius in cultivation. In 500 years, no one in the feng shui Xianmen has a higher talent than me, and I will surely become a Taoist ancestor in the future. I was 18 years old, became a handsome boy, but my mother is particularly old fast. Just a few years full of green hair have become gray hair, as if exhausting life. On the day of the hibernation there was a huge thunderstorm and my mom suddenly fell ill, instantly on her deathbed, so fast that I didn't have time to react. My mom took my hand and said to me with a loving face, "Ding Lin, Mom is leaving. Mom has something to explain to you now. You have to remember it clearly, don't forget it." I cried and knelt in front of the bed, tears falling like rain. "The first thing, when I die you should not go into mourning, and you should not get anyone to carry my coffin. Prepare for me a 9-foot 9-inch willow coffin, not a penny more, not an inch less. You put me in a coffin, and when the time comes, someone will naturally come to carry my coffin. The second thing, when I die you shall not drop me into the earth. If I came from the water, I shall go from the water, just bury me in the Yellow River. Third thing, you may not set foot in Yanjing territory for 3 years, don't ask why, Mom won't harm you. Mom left something for you in Yanjing. 3 years from now, on the day of the dragon's head on February 2nd, you must go and get back what belongs to you. Fourth thing, because you are a dragon-born son, there are still many things on this earth that miss you, and they want to eat you, and there will be no one to protect you after I die. I've made all the arrangements, someone will come to the house to pick you up when the time comes, you listen to that person's arrangements, and don't leave here until that person arrives. Ding Lin, do you remember these things that Mom said? I remember. I cried. My mom made me repeat it again, and after one word was correct, she was relieved. My mom told me to put my left hand in front of her mouth, and she bit down hard on my palm, which instantly developed a bone-deep gash that bled profusely. After doing this, my mom smiled happily, as if she had accomplished something. She started to come back to life and took my hand tightly. Ding Lin, remember Mom's name. Mom's name is Jiang Yuji, and you have Mom's blood flowing in you. This is the first time I've heard my mom's name, Kong Yuji. It wasn't long before my mom passed away. I held and cried. My mom was gone and I had no family in the world after that. I followed my mom's will to prepare her afterlife and invited her into a 9-foot, 9-inch long willow coffin. That very night, 100 ghosts came to my house. Until then, I didn't realize that the people carrying my mom's coffin were not people, but 100 ghosts. 100 ghosts carried my mother's coffin to the Yellow River, and when I arrived at the Yellow River, I realized that there were riverboats kneeling all over the place wearing hempen mourning, and they had come to cry for my mother to see her off. When Hebe saw me, he hastened to give me a salute, with an unbelievably respectful attitude. 100 ghosts carried my mother's coffin and buried it into the Yellow River. At the moment when the coffin was buried into the Yellow River, I saw 9 giant pythons rushing out from the Yellow River. 9 pythons floated on the water surface, head held high and bowed to me in the manner of a human being, and then carried my mom's coffin flying against the water and disappeared in the blink of an eye. My mom came from the water and eventually went from the water. She never left anything behind except to give birth to me in the world, and to this day I don't know where she really came from. The night after my mom first died, a man with yellow hair broke into my house. He said he'd lend me an arm and a thigh for a while and return it to me in 3 years. I was furious and fought the man directly, and in the end I killed him and the man turned into a weasel. Not long after that someone else barged in and said they wanted to borrow my head. Again, this man is not a decent human being, but a cultivated hedgehog. I grunted coldly, brought up my knife and fought him, and it took 9 tigers to kill him. There was no peace this night, something kept breaking in, and none of it was decent. I have the skills my mom taught me to protect my body, and although I'm a little hurt, I'm not dead yet. But this isn't the way to go. Hell, I don't know when those things are going to stop. In case one comes along that I can't beat, won't I be dead in the water? My mom told me to wait for someone at home, and I didn't know who to wait for or when that person would come to me. The next day, just as the sun was setting, there was another knock on the door outside and my big name was called out. I crossed my eyes and hid the knife behind my back. In this village, no one but my mom calls me by my first name. Chapter 2: The Female Corpse in the Coffin. I looked out through the crack in the door, and I was slightly stunned at what I saw outside. It was much different than I thought it would be. It was a man, wearing the clothes of a courier. My eyes flickered slightly, and instead of opening the door immediately, I asked, "What can I do for you?" The man saw that I didn't open the door for half a minute, and was a bit impatient. "Ding Lin, right, we are from the logistics company. Someone sent a package to you from Xinjiang province, and the stuff was put at your door." The man walked away after that, not even giving me a chance to speak. In the doorway, there was a large wooden box, about 2 meters long and 70 centimeters wide, sealed and wrapped incomparably tightly, so that the contents could not be seen. I glanced at the delivery slip. It was sent from the frontier province a week ago. I couldn't see the sender's information, but the recipient's address and name were mine. I was suspicious for a moment. How could someone send me a package from so far away, and what was in it? After hesitating for a moment, I decided to open the box and take a look. Prying the outside crate open revealed that the inside was actually a rectangular wooden box. This is gloomy sunken wood? Looking at the wooden box inside, I startled up. With such a large piece of sunken wood as a wooden box, is really too extravagant. Sunken wood is of extraordinary value, not to mention such a large piece. I became more and more curious about the contents of the wooden box. The contents were actually made of shady wood, so it must not be simple. While I was prying this gloomy wooden box, a light suddenly flashed in my mind. This box could not be a coffin, right? With a click, I opened the dank wooden chest. I was dumbfounded when I saw what the box contained. My earlier hunch became a reality, and what was sent to me was indeed a coffin of dank wood. At that moment in the coffin lay a naked girl. The girl was young, 18 or 19 years old, her features were delicate and picturesque, and there was a little bit of red on her brow, making her look noble and wholly snow-white skin, popping fingers. The body is the golden ratio, not a bit of flab, a glimpse in front of me. She just lay there in the coffin, her eyes closed, and not a breath in sight. It was the first time I had ever seen such a beautiful girl, and a girl with no clothes on, so I felt my cheeks burn and my mouth go a little dry. "Is this girl alive or dead?" I muttered, reaching for the girl's nostrils. The girl's skin is smooth and delicate, as if it were fine sheep's fat jade. I checked this, and was shocked that she had no nasal breath. Is she dead?" I frowned and was about to touch her heartbeat when the girl's eyes snapped open. They were beautiful eyes, like two of the most beautiful jewels, black and white, no impurities at all, and she just looked at me. This. I'm a little embarrassed. This position is ambiguous, easy to make people think wrongly. My hand is raised in midair. It's not a good idea to put it down. It's not a good idea to drop it just as I wanted to explain. The girl suddenly raised her lotus root-like arms and wrapped them around my neck, pulling me into the coffin. With a snap, the lid of the coffin, which had fallen to the ground, closed as well, and the coffin went dark. The girl's body was on fire, wrapped around my body like a snake. She was surprisingly strong and held me tightly. When I opened my eyes again, I was lying in bed and the girl was gone. Glancing at the time, it was actually late in the evening of the next day. I hurriedly got dressed and ran out of the room. In the living room sat a strange old man. I looked around. The girl from last night had disappeared, as if she had left. Even the shady wooden coffin was gone, all traces of her were gone, even the bed sheets were gone. I rubbed my head, feeling ridiculous as I thought about what had happened last night. The strange old man smiled and said to me, "Ding Lin, you're sleeping like a dead pig, and people have long since left." A flash of embarrassment flashed across my face as I surveyed the strange old man. The old man wore a white linen garment, was about 70 years old, had a goatee, and shoulder-length hair, on which a red rope was tied in a flirtatious manner. This old man is an old immodest man at first glance. "Who are you? Why are you in my house?" I asked. "Introduce yourself. My name is Su Jin. Your old mom, Mother Dragon, asked me to pick you up and get you out of here," Su Jin said. "Mother of dragons?" I raised an eyebrow. Who was the mother of dragons again? Su Jin coughed dryly and said vaguely, "Your old mom said you're in danger and asked me to take you out of here." I quickly mulled it over in my head, making sure that Su Jin was speaking truthfully. Soon I was sure that he should not have lied to me. If he really wanted to hurt me, he would have done it already and wouldn't have waited for me to wake up. I nodded and said, "Old mister. Su, please." Su Jin was still smiling and looking at me. "Ding Lin, don't you have anything to ask me? Do you know my mom well?" I asked. "Of course, it can be said that I watched her grow up." Su Jin nodded. "Then tell me, what is my mom's true identity? When you said Mother of Dragons earlier, were you referring to my mom?" I asked. Su Jin touched her forehead, her face showing a difficult color. "Your old mother passed me a message about her real identity that she can't tell you now. She said that it won't do you any good. When you get to the earth rank of a mage, only then will you be qualified to know." I pursed my lips and didn't continue to ask the question again because the same thing my mom had said to me. "Are you going to take me out of here? Where are you taking me?" I asked after a moment of silence. Su Jin laughed and asked, "Shouldn't you ask me what I am and what I do?" I shook my head and whispered, "Since you know my mom well, and my mom entrusted me to you, what do I have to suspect?" Su Jin was satisfied with this answer of mine. Stroking his beard and laughing, he said, "Ding Lin, pack up and I'll take you out of here." "I don't have anything to pack, just grab a couple of clothes." Seeing that I didn't ask any other questions, Su-jin felt a bit like scratching her heart, and asked me with a wink, "Ding Lin, don't you want to ask about the girl you spent the night with?" A flash of embarrassment flashed across my face. I also felt puzzled and even a bit ridiculous about this matter. There was a feeling of unreality. After a moment of silence, I looked at Su-jin and asked, "If I ask, will you tell?" "Of course." Su-jin nodded. "Ask away." I took a deep breath and asked, "What was the girl's name? Why did she show up here? Who arranged this whole thing?" Su-jin pulled out her ears and looked at me with a smirk. "Ding Lin, you're not in love with someone else, are you? Fuck off." I blushed and didn't take it well seeing me blush. Su-jin laughed and said after a while, "Because you are the son of a dragon, born extraordinary, and exuding the aura of the Tang monk's meat, all those demons and monsters want to eat you. Now that that girl is intermingling with your yin and yang, that Dragonborn son's aura in your body will be dispersed, those demons and devils won't be able to feel it, and you won't have to worry about being hunted by those guys every now and then in the future." "Really? You didn't lie to me?" I looked at Su-jin suspiciously. "Of course it's true, I never lie." Su-jin nodded her head very seriously. I believed what Su-jin said. In that case, that girl came to help me, I owed her a big favor, and my heart was a little ashamed. "What about the others?" I asked after coming over for a moment. I didn't even know where the girl's name came from yet. Su-jin barred her mouth and said, "Ask the rest yourself when you are destined to meet her in the future, knowing it now will do you no good." I glared at Su-jin in annoyance. I knew this guy was unreliable, always whetting people's appetites. When Su-jin and I left Dingjia village, it was already dark. Not long after we left the village, a figure blocked our way, his back turned to us so we couldn't see him. I stared at the man with a grave expression. An extremely strong aura emanated from him, making me feel a little breathless. This was an overwhelmingly strong person. "What do you mean by that?" Su-jin looked at the man with a playful expression. The man didn't turn around, and his cold voice came over, "Leave the Dragonborn son behind, and you can get out." "I'll take the Dragonborn son, no one can stop me." Chapter 3, Su-jin. "Old Su, this guy is so strong, can you beat him?" I asked in a low voice, staring intently at the man. Su-jin smiled proudly. "You don't look at who I am, you have to beat him. If I have to let someone snatch you away, then what face do I have to see people? Dinlin, turn around before I scare you." Su-jin's figure flashed and disappeared directly from my side. I was still thinking of peeking at the battle between the two, but unfortunately, the two had already reached the depths of darkness, so I couldn't see any figure, and could only hear some muffled sounds like thunder. 2 minutes later, I heard the man let out a horrified and mournful scream. You can't believe that." The man's voice came to a screeching halt when he reached this point. He had already been finished off by Su-jin. Su-jin walked towards me with his hands behind his back and smiled, walking in front of me and also flirting with his long hair. That flirtatious look made people want to hit him. "I thought you said those things couldn't smell me on them anymore?" I asked. Su-jin smiled and said, "That guy has been keeping watch here, don't worry, it won't happen again." "Old Su, what the hell are you? You feel so strong?" I asked. "I was already strong," Su-jin said with a haughty face, and while being haughty, he also scowled at me, where he looked like a superior person. The mountain road behind Su-jin left alone a dozen times. Every time he left there would be muffled thunder and screams ringing out in the darkness, and there were even 2 times he was injured. He didn't say a word to me, but I knew that he was there to deal with the things that were thinking about me. With such a powerful enemy, I simply couldn't leave and live without Su-jin sheltering me. "Oh, Old Su, where are you taking me?" "Longjiang City." 2 days later, Su-jin brought me to Longjiang City. On the way, Su-jin told me about the history of Longjiang City, an ancient city that was thousands of years old. The ancient city or whatever was not important. What was important was that Su-jin said that she had spent time in Longjiang City speed cultivation. Su-jin led me around the city of Longjiang, finally coming to a very remote corner and stopping in front of an old courtyard building. I looked at Su-jin suspiciously and asked, "Old Su, are you bringing me here to catch a ghost?" Su-jin stumbled and almost fell to the ground, crying and laughing. Catch, what the hell, from now on, this is your home. Is this my mom's arrangement too? I asked. The house in front of me is so old and decrepit, like it was left over from the last century, that people who don't know it would think it's a haunted house, of course, or else you think Su-jin, who is as handsome as me, would pick such a lousy place for you. Su-jin hummed. This place is actually pretty nice. I nodded as I surveyed the house. Su-jin took a deep breath, then angrily said, Ding Lin, you're double standard, proper double standard. Just now, you said that I brought you here to catch ghosts, knowing that your mom arranged it. You immediately said that it's not bad, pissed me off. The corners of my mouth quirked up slightly at the sight of his exasperated look. Chatting and farting with Su-jin on this journey made me feel much better. Old Su, despite his flirty look, is a very reliable guy. The house hadn't been lived in for who knows how long, and when you entered the house it was dusty, with rats, cockroaches, spiders, and whatnot running around. Su-jin and his sword finger drew an exorcism talisman in the air, and casually slapped it out, and immediately all those bugs ran away, as if they were running for their lives. Seeing this hand of Su-jin lose, my eyes lit up. His use of this trick is brilliant. He has already used the exorcism talisman in a perfect way. Su-jin was quite conscientious and didn't let me do the cleaning myself, finding a group of housekeepers to clean inside and out. While the guys were cleaning, I scrutinized the house. When he looked at it, he immediately noticed something. The feng shui of the house was very wrong, and it was very different from the rest of the house. The feng shui here is filled with a majestic, grand, and pure feeling that is not found anywhere else, and if you go by feng shui, this house is a feng shui treasure point. I suddenly thought of what Su-jin had said to me earlier, and I pulled him and asked, Old Su, could it be that the dragon vein in Longjiang City is in this house? Su-jin nodded his head, then shook it again, stroking his goatee, and said, Your Dao is too low. Where would you be able to withstand the entire dragon vein? Go find that whole dragon vein in this house. I nodded heavily and said in a deep voice, Even if it's just a whisker from a dragon vein, it's quite enough for me right now. Ding Lin, you'll be living here from now on. Before you become an earth-ranked mage, you can't reveal your true identity or origin, nor can you say anything about your old mom to anyone, or else it'll bring you a killing curse. Also, don't go back to the Ding family village until you've achieved earth-rank mage, or those things will still find you. Su-jin was rarely serious, admonishing me word for word. Old Su, I'll remember. I nodded my head heavily. I definitely wouldn't do anything that would cause death. Su-jin suddenly grabbed my left hand, and there was a pattern of a black dragon scale on my palm. My mom bit me on her deathbed, and this appeared after the scar healed, and the dragon scales seemed to have grown into the flesh, and I couldn't get them off. Su-jin drew a talisman in the air above my palm with her hand and sword fingers, then drank, hidden. The talisman he drew flashed with light, then rushed into my palm, and in the next second the dragon scale pattern on my palm disappeared. I clenched my fists, and it had no effect. Before I could open my mouth, Su-jin said, Don't ask anything, you're not strong enough. I won't say anything even if you ask, you'll know when the time comes. What could I say but nod? Ding Lin, because you are the son of a dragon, so you are destined to only deal with some evil things in this life. You can only engage in these industries. Don't think of going to be a small security guard or something to mix your life, or else you will be revolted by your chi. Su-jin gloated, only being able to engage in the inside of things, life would be a lot less fun. What could I say but nod my head in agreement? Alright, I've said what I need to say. I should leave. I'll leave this place to you. Su-jin said. Old Su, are you leaving so soon? When will we meet again? I asked. Su-jin gave me an ambiguous smile and laughed and hemmed, You can't let me go? I'm not interested in boyars. My face darkened, and I said, without a word, fuck off. Su-jin walked outward, smiling as she did so, We'll see each other if we're destined to. When he walked to the door he stopped, turned around and said to me with a smile, Ding Lin, this city is not like the countryside. First of all you have to find a way to make money to live, don't starve to death here. Hey, Old Su, give me some money. I hurriedly shouted, I just brought $3,000 from home, on the way also paid the two people's fare, now I have less than $1,000 in my pocket, how can I live with this amount of money? Su-jin directly acted as if she didn't hear me, and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Old Su, count your blessings. I gritted my teeth. I began to think about making money. I can only do work in the nether regions, I am not famous now, and live in this nook and cranny. Who would take the initiative to hire me? I thought about staying at home for a few days first. If I can't do it, I will take the initiative again. I didn't expect a knock on the door on the third day. It was a woman's voice as she shouted outside the door, may I ask if Venerable Master Ding is home? I was introduced to him by old Mr. Su, and I have something I would like to ask for Venerable Master Ding's help. Hearing the shout, I grinned and muttered, Old Su, count on you having a bit of a conscience, or else I'd have to go and set up a fortune-telling stall under the flyover. When I saw the woman, I froze, and exclaimed in my heart, I'm dizzy, this woman is committing een peach bane, such a heavy een peach bane, how many men is she dating at the same time? Can she take it? Chapter 4, Take Off Your Pants. Een peach bane is an extremely evil bane, to put it plainly, it is the product of peach blossom luck and een bane coming together. The woman's eyes were watery, there was blood in the corners of her eyes, and there was a very strong baleful aura coiled around her brow, which was a very strong sign of the een peach bane. Since it carries a een character, it means that the peach blossom luck this woman is taking is not normal, and if I'm not mistaken, the men she's been with are all dead men judging by the fury perched on her brow, she must have befriended several at once, and was a proper mess. This woman was in her mid-20s, her makeup was well done, and there was a faintly lewd and evil aura emanating from her. As I was sizing up the woman was sizing me up. She was visibly stunned to see me so young, and there was a suspicious look in her eyes, one of skepticism about my abilities. I nodded at her, opened the door, and said, Hi, I'm Dinlin. Mage Ding, can you really help me? The woman asked tentatively. Instead of answering her, I asked rhetorically, I'm sure you've been to someone else before you came to me, and someone else cured you. A look of embarrassment flashed across the girl's face as she reached out to me and said, Hello Venerable Master Ding, my name is Yang Mingyun, and I was introduced to you by old Mr. Su. I reached out and touched her, and a flash of color flashed in my eyes, Miss Yang, come in. When she came to the house, Yang Mingyun's eyes were sizing me up, the watery intent in her eyes was even more intense, and there was also a kind of longing and springiness in her gaze towards me, and at this time the kind of lewdness and evilness in her body was even heavier. If an ordinary man were to be surveyed by her eyes like this, he might fall into that tenderness. She couldn't attract me with that look in her eyes, so I coughed lightly and said, Ms. Yang, tell me about yourself. Yang Mingyun regretfully withdrew her gaze and asked, Venerable Master Ding, how do you charge here? It depends on what you're dealing with, different things charge different rates, I said. In that case, let me tell you about my confusion. Yang Mingyun said. Yang Mingyun lowered her head and twisted her fingers with both hands, her cheeks suddenly flashed a touch of redness, her face had a shy look as she stammered. Mage, it's like this, I've been having those dreams at night lately, whenever I close my eyes, being tortured by men in my dreams, I'm in pain and pleasure. I looked as usual, while in my heart I was skimming my lips and muttering, with that heavy een peach fury on you, it would be strange if you don't have spring dreams, only that what you think is a dream is not necessarily a dream. Seeing Yang Mingyun stop, I continued, you continue to continue, I'm listening. Yang Mingyun raised her head and looked at me, suddenly coming up with, Venerable Master Ding, you don't think I'm a bad girl, do you? I resisted the urge to roll my eyes, this is not to say nonsense, you are not a bad girl, and I have nothing to do, I just opened the door to do business. Seeing Yang Mingyun's look of wanting to speak but still shy, I said in a serious tone. Ms. Yang, I'm a mage, I'm here to solve people's problems, so don't get any ideas. And I'm on my time baby, so just say what you have to say and don't waste each other's time by beating around the bush. The color of disappointment in Yang Mingyun's eyes became even more intense, and she put away that little thought. Continuing, I've been having these dreams for about half a month now, and at first I didn't think anything was wrong. After about 3 days, I suddenly woke up in the morning feeling exhausted and drained of energy, and had to take pills to maintain my strength. Then the symptoms got stronger and stronger, and I felt exhausted every day, like I was dying. People told me I was possessed, and I went to see a high priest, but it was of no use. I nodded, in my mind skimming, "You damn every night in Yuan are leaking out, cannot be tired, you are still alive is already a great life." Naturally, I didn't say the words in my mind and continued, "Any other symptoms?" Yang Mengyun nodded and suddenly unbuttoned and undressed. "Hey, what are you doing?" I drank hastily, I didn't have that kind of hobby. Yang Mengyun exposed her small belly and said with a sobbing voice, "Mage, look, I've got this weird thing growing on me, it's scary." My pupils tightened as I stared intently at Yang Mengyun's small abdomen. There was an abscess growing in Yang Mengyun's belly, and that abscess was already as big as a fist. The pustules were black as ink and so bizarrely shaped that they looked like an upturned eye. I stared intently at the abscess, the slightest glimmer of a ghostly light in my eyes. Since I was 10 years old, my mom has been washing my eyes with potions, and later I realized that she was using a secret method to open my 9 spectral eyes. The 9 spectre's eye is a kind of foreign eye in the Feng Shui metaphysics sect, and it is ranked first among the foreign eyes. The second-ranked alien eye is the double pupil, the third-ranked is the natural yin and yang eye, while the fourth-ranked is the Taoist heavenly eye. There are 4 stages to my 9 spectral eyes, which are the eye of spiritual pupil, the eye of spiritual void, the eye of spiritual mystery, and the eye of delusion. What I have now is the eye of the spirit pupil, the 9 spectre's eye of great completion, which can see through the 9 Xian heavens on the top and the underworld hell on the bottom, and is extremely powerful. My mom said that the secret art of the 9 spectral eyes has been lost, and that I am the last pair of 9 spectral eyes in this world. Under my spiritual pupil's eye, the pustule on Yang Mengyun's small abdomen emanated wisps of black gas that ordinary people couldn't see, and that black gas was precisely a mixture of evil gas and corpse gas. Seeing this, I was even more certain of the suspicion in my mind that I had identified the source of the problem. Yang Mengyun lost her voice and cried, "Venerable Master, please save me, I'm a graphic model, I'm in this hellish state now, I've even lost my job, I'll die if I go on like this, boo-hoo." "Well, don't cry, there's no use for you to cry," I said. "I don't sympathize with her, she did all this on her own, no one else is to blame." Yang Mengyun cried and cried, "Venerable Master, is it true that you can save me?" I nodded my head and said, "The problem with you isn't complicated, and it's up to you to cooperate to save you." Yang Mengyun was overjoyed, his head was like a chicken pecking at rice. "Venerable Master, I'll cooperate, I'll absolutely cooperate, I'll do whatever you tell me to do." I pondered for a moment and said, "With your full cooperation, I'll handle your problem for a fee of $10,000. $10,000? Yang Mengyun exclaimed. My face tightened for a moment and I muttered in my mind, "Am I asking too much? Want to go no lower?" "Don't scare her away. She's my next living expense." Before I had a chance to speak, Yang Mengyun said with a delighted look on her face, "Venerable Master Ding, you're really too cheap here. Before, I had to pay 30,000 for a random master." I immediately had a wild sweat in my heart. I was asking for too little. I cannot make this mistake in the future. Yang Mengyun wanted to transfer money by cell phone, but I refused. My old cell phone didn't have this function yet. She said she would go get cash for me later. When I saw the money, I was motivated, and with a smile on my face, I said, "Take your pants off." Chapter 5. A ghostly child is in her belly. Take off your pants? Hearing my words, Yang Mengyun's face swished red. When I saw that look on her face, I said in no uncertain terms, "Don't get any ideas, I want to take a look at your lower body." Yang Mengyun's face turned even redder and her head went even lower. I hate to give myself a big mouth even when I say this. Isn't it that the more I explain, the more people misunderstand? I deliberately grimaced and said in a deep voice, "Don't dawdle, hurry up. Do what I tell you to do, don't waste time." "Oh." Yang Mengyun nodded shyly and slowly pulled her pants down. I glanced at her and said with a sinking feeling, take it all off. When Yang Mengyun was done, I added, lie down on the ground and spread your legs apart. Yang Mengyun blushed as if she was about to drip blood, her heart fluttering, whispering in her mind, so Venerable Master Ding likes to play like this. I thought he was such a decent person. Yang Mengyun was a bit shy and did as I said, slowly closing her eyes. I looked at it and frowned slightly. After a moment of silence, I said, Ms. Yang, your lower body is rotting, you won't be able to be a mother in the future. Huh? Yang Mengyun snapped her eyes open with a befuddled look, not understanding what I meant. Again, I repeated what I had just said. Mage Ting, I'm still young, I haven't been a mother yet, can you please not make me lose that function? Yang Mengyun had tears in her eyes, she suddenly realized that what I was going to do wasn't what she thought it was, and her heart burst with shame. I said with a stern face, you caused all this yourself, it's already too late, the gods can't save you, look at yourself. I took a bagua mirror, recited an incantation, and shone it at Yang Mengyun's lower body, and suddenly another picture appeared on the bagua mirror. Yang Mengyun tilted her head to take a look and almost fainted in fear as she said in incomparable horror, no wonder I've been feeling a strange odor in my body lately, how did my body rot like this? As I ground the vermilion, I asked, you want to know? Well, I usually pay attention to my own cleanliness and hygiene. Yang Mengyun cried, feeling that her body shouldn't have rotted like that, she hadn't noticed it at all before. Tell me, how many boyfriends did you have at the same time? I asked. 3. Yang Mengyun whispered. 3? I raised my voice slightly. 5. I am a burst of speechless, at the same time to have 5 boyfriends, more bloody is that those 5 men are not living, this kind of thing even the movie dare not make up so. When the vermilion sand was sharpened, I looked up at Yang Mengyun and said, want to know what the pustules on your stomach that look like eyes are? Yang Mengyun nodded vigorously, you're carrying a brat in your belly, and in less than a month that brat will be completely mature, and then it will cut open your belly and burrow out. I said. Yang Mengyun was scared to death and cried, Venerable Master, don't scare me, I'm afraid. Do you think I'm that boring? I didn't have the heart to say. Count yourself lucky to have met me, otherwise you'd be waiting for the ghostly fetus to mature and eat you. I said. Picking up the talismanic brush and dipping it in vermilion sand, he pressed his left hand against Yang Mengyun's belly and said in a deep voice, I'm going to abort that demonic fetus now. It might be a bit painful, so you'll have to bear with it. I didn't wait for Yang Mengyun to respond, the talisman brush quickly traveled around her belly, the brush moved and quickly drew a ghost-killing talisman. Single talisman is not enough, you have to use it with the incantation. I quickly read the ghost-killing incantation in my mind, Tai Shan Lao Jun, teach me to kill ghosts, with my god Feng, on the call of the Jade Maiden, to take away the ominous. Urgent as the law order. After the ghost-killing incantation was recited, the ghost-killing talisman that I had drawn on Yang Mengyun's belly suddenly bloomed with golden light. Yang Mengyun's belly quickly bulged as if something was burrowing inside, and she howled in pain and twisted her body frantically. Fix! I droned, knitting my hand into a sword finger and pointing it at her brow, casting a fixing spell to immobilize her. The golden light of the ghost-killing talisman became more and more blazing, Yang Mengyun's belly bulged more and more, and a mournful scream came out from her belly. Stinking mage, you dare to spoil my good deed, do you believe I'll kill you? Come if you have the guts. I snorted coldly, disdain in my eyes, an unborn ghost child still wants to threaten me, do you really think I'm a mud man? Ah, it hurts, I'm going to melt. The screams of the ghost fetus became more and more mournful. It turned from cursing at the beginning to begging for mercy, crying out, Mage, please let me go, I won't dare to harm anyone ever again. Too late. I said coldly. About half an incense stick later. The ghost fetus let out a desperate scream, Ghost Mage, I won't let you go, I'll find. The screams of the ghost fetus came to an abrupt end, and a foul-smelling pus and blood flowed out from under Yang Mengyun. That ghost child has been refined by me into pus and blood. Collect. I drank at Yang Mengyun with my hands and sword fingers, and put away the fixing spell. It didn't take a while for Yang Mengyun to open her eyes. She felt incredibly weak, and heaven and earth were spinning. Mage, am I done? Yang Mengyun asked weakly. Only half of it. I said, I've aborted that demonic fetus, and the sores on your stomach, as well as your bottom. Go to the hospital yourself to get them fixed, and you should recover with some time in the hospital. Yang Mengyun saw the foul-smelling pus and blood coming out of her body, and was scared out of her wits. The makeup on her face had long been spent. This was the most horrible thing she had ever seen in her life. Yang Mengyun put on his clothes and walked to me, his eyes filled with respect and awe. In a small voice, I asked, Venerable Master, what is happening to me? How could I be carrying a ghost baby in my stomach? Could it be that I've recently hit a ghost? I thought you said you've been having those dreams lately? I said. Yang Mengyun immediately stared at me with wide eyes, looking at me with disbelief, stuttering, Venerable Master, do you mean to say that all those dreams I had were true? But the time is not right. How could I have gotten pregnant with a ghost child so quickly? And you know it was a ghost fetus. You think ghost fetuses are the same as normal ones? I asked rhetorically. Yang Mengyun was instantly speechless, squatting on the ground and whimpering in pain, her heart filled with endless fear. When I saw her like this, I shook my head. If I had known it would happen, why would I have done it in the first place? Can't I be clean? Flies don't bite seamless eggs. Those guys just like to find women like that to practice with. Do you want to know why you are the way you are? I asked. Yang Mengyun cried and nodded her head. The root cause is actually quite simple. It's out of those 5 boyfriends you've been seeing. Do they have a problem? Yang Mengyun looked at me. Of course, because none of them are alive. I said in a deep voice. Chapter 6, Killing a Corpse. Yang Mengyun could no longer withstand the blow, her eyes rolled over and she fainted in fear. It was bad enough that she had problems with her, but now to learn that the 5 boyfriends she was seeing at the same time weren't living people, where was she going to suffer? Things are not even done. How can Yang Mengyun faint? I woke her up and said. Now is not the time to swoon. Tell me where those 5 boyfriends of yours are now. I need their exact address, and if you don't destroy them, they'll come back for you later. Yang Mengyun shivered. Venerable Master, I don't know where they live either. We all use cell phones to contact them. And you haven't met? I asked suspiciously. If I hadn't met, how could Yang Mengyun have a ghost fetus in her stomach? That ghost tire is the seat of those guys. As to whose it really is, that's unknown. We all arranged to meet at night and then separated during the day. Yang Mengyun whispered. Very well, then you will make an appointment with them now. Do everything you can to get them out on a date. Tonight, all 5 of them must come out, not a single one must be missing, and you'll wait for death if you run away from one of them. I said, giving Yang Mengyun some pressure. It was a matter of her life and death. Yang Mengyun didn't dare to be careless and hurriedly took out her cell phone to contact them. Yang Mengyun had a lot of experience, and it didn't take long before she managed to get those 5 people on a date, arranging to meet at different times. Venerable Master, you said that they are not living people, then how could they play with cell phones? Yang Mengyun asked in a low voice. I'll show you tonight and you'll see. I said instead of solving her puzzle for her. Yang Mengyun went out to fetch the money for me, while I went back to my room to draw the talisman, which could potentially be used tonight. There are a total of 4 realms for Feng Shui Xianmen mages. From high to low they are the heavenly, earthly, Xian and yellow stages, and each realm is further divided into 10 segments, and my current realm is the 5th segment of the yellow stage. The talismans that can be used in each realm are also different. The yellow stage uses yellow talismans, the Xian stage uses silver talismans. The talismans are of different grades, and there is also a high and low level of power, and I can only draw yellow talismans at my current level of Taoism. Drawing talisman is not a pen on the paper as a gourd can, that just has the shape. No god, that is a piece of paper. A truly powerful talisman, that requires form and spirit to be given together. The shape is good to say, just do as you're told. But a god would need to be empowered by the monks with Tao and Dharma incantations, and this is not something that anyone can do. The lower the level of the talisman, the easier it is to draw. The higher level talismans are difficult. I drew 20 yellow talismans in an hour. That should be enough for tonight. By the time I came out of my room, Yang Mingyun had already come back from withdrawing the money. With $10,000 in the bank, I'm in good shape and won't have to worry about money for some time to come. I am sure I can find my next deal before the $10,000 runs out. By late afternoon, Yang Mingyun and I set off. The first boyfriend Yang Mingyun asked out met at a snail noodle store. The snail powder store was deep in an old alley. Yang Mingyun didn't have the heart to eat and looked around, waiting for the man to appear. After about 10 minutes of this, I smelled a strong stench of corpses, and I lowered my voice and said, "He's coming." A few seconds later, Yang Mingyun saw the person she was waiting for. In the past, she would have greeted them with laughter, but now where would she dare? A smile worse than tears squeezed out of her face. The man was dressed in a suit and looked like he was around 30 years old. Yang Mingyun said he was a real estate manager. I had an invisible air talisman on me. The man couldn't sense my aura, and I was already sitting at another table when he arrived. Yang Mingyun followed my previous explanation and left the place with that man. I don't want to make a scene. I have to find a remote place to strike again. I quietly followed, and when I reached the remote section, I accelerated violently and came to Yang Mingyun, who hurriedly hid behind me. The man froze and looked at Yang Mingyun in confusion. "Little Yun, what's wrong with you? Who is he?" Yang Mingyun didn't dare to speak and hid behind me, not daring to come out. "Ms. Yang, just open your eyes and see what he really is," I said, taking 2 willow leaves from my pocket and wiping them in front of Yang Mingyun's eyes while drinking. "Heavenly eyes, open." I used willow leaf to temporarily open Yang Mingyun's heavenly eyes, and this state can be maintained on her for 10 seconds. Yang Mingyun looked up towards her boyfriend, and after a brief loss of voice, she covered her eyes and screamed hysterically in her eyes. The gentleman disappeared and was replaced by a male corpse covered in rot, dripping pus, and emitting a strong stench. The man's body hadn't even known how long it had been dead, and there were white maggots writhing in the rotting flesh of his body. After screaming, the thought that she had kissed and rolled in bed with this male corpse before made her stomach lurch, and she crouched down and vomited furiously. I glanced at Yang Mingyun's reaction and bristled. This was self-inflicted. In my spiritual pupil's eyes, this male corpse naturally could not hide his true face in front of me. This male corpse's grievances did not dissipate after his death, and he still retained a trace of spiritual intelligence, so he became what he is now. This guy's mana is still very low, not even a stiff. For me, I can destroy him with the flip of a hand. I removed the hidden chi talisman, and the male corpse sensed the aura on me, and was instantly terrified, scattering its legs and trying to escape. I grunted coldly, "Damn evil corpse, seeing me and still trying to escape, delusional." I took the red rope out of my sleeve, wrapped it around my finger, formed a Big Dipper Dharma seal, and shouted, "Big Dipper, Beidou, cut down the demons and get rid of the devils, and be in a hurry." As my last word fell, I swung my hand violently, knocking the red rope out of my hand. Phew! On the other end of the red rope was tied the 5 emperors' copper coin, and under the urging of my spell, the 5 emperors' coin turned into a rainbow light with the red rope and quickly chased after the male corpse. Pissed. Almost instantly, the red rope wrapped around the male corpse. I tugged on this end of the red rope, pulled hard, and bellowed, "Get your ass back here." The male corpse screamed miserably and flew backwards as I pulled him back, smashing into the ground in front of me. "Mage, spare my life." The male corpse screamed miserably. With a cold snort, I took a magic stick and slapped it down, nailing it through the male corpse's brow. The male corpse let out a mournful scream, and his body quickly turned into pus, disappearing completely in a few dozen seconds. I swept a glance at Yang Mingyun and took a big stride forward, saying as I walked, "All right, don't waste any time, hurry up and go to the next one. We have to exterminate the remaining 4 corpses tonight." The operation went well and all 5 dead bodies were taken out before dawn. Ever since Yang Mingyun had looked at the first dead body for real, she had never dared to look at the others. When we parted, Yang Mengyun cried and kowtowed to me, saying that she would definitely reform in the future and would never dare to mess around again. In this moment, I felt a force from the underworld enter my body. My eyes lit up. This was the power of heavenly merit after doing something good. When I got home, I showered and then went to my room to catch up on some sleep. I hadn't been asleep long when suddenly I was awakened, jerking out of bed and frowning as I looked around the room, finding nothing. My brow was furrowed. I had just had a dream in which a child had crawled into my bed. The child grimaced at me with an eerie grin, and just as he was about to reach out and rip out my heart, I was awakened. I suddenly felt something in my heart and looked down towards my chest and blushed dramatically. Chapter 7. The kid came into my house. I was wearing white pajamas, and at this point there was a dark palm print where my chest had been. That palm print is so small, you can tell it's a child's by looking at it. I didn't even have it on my clothes before I went to bed. It got up there while I was sleeping. Looking at the palm print, my brow furrowed into a chuan. When you think about the dream I just had, it makes for some fine thinking. Does that mean it wasn't a dream just now, and something really did crawl into my bed? I muttered to myself, quickly working it out in my mind. That can be a really irritating thing. That thing crawled into my bed and I didn't even notice it in the first place. If I hadn't woken up suddenly, then wouldn't I have had my heart ripped out by him? Where did that come from? How did he escape my innate senses? Some questions filled my mind. I mulled it over for a moment and reached out to press my hand against the palm print. In his heart, he recited the exorcism incantation, God's might is 5U, the chi penetrates the chankuan, 10,000 fathoms of flames, electricity, and thunder run urgently. As I recited the incantation, a golden light filled my palm, and soon the golden light enveloped the pitch-black palm print. In no time, black gas escaped from between my fingers. When I let go of my palm, the palm print had dissipated. After a short period of contemplation, this matter has been somewhat obvious in my mind, and I have probably deduced where the little ghost came from. When I was helping Yang Mengyun yesterday, there was something I neglected to do. That ghostly fetus in Yang Mengyun's stomach is most likely not that simple. That ghost fetus should not be from those boyfriends she had, it should be from someone else who got it into her stomach. That ghost fetus had already been killed by me, and the other ghost that came to trouble me just now was aiming to avenge the killing of that ghost fetus by me. Revenge actually came to my house. You've got some guts. I let out a cold snort, with killing intent flashing in my eyes. Something like this could never be tolerated. The brat that came to kill me just now should have been raised with a special secret method, otherwise it would be impossible to evade my innate perception. And it's still daytime, it doesn't affect that little ghost at all, which is not something that ordinary ghosts can do. Even when I go into sleep, my innate perception is always present, and I can detect ordinary evil things near me. This incident was a wake-up call for me. I need to set up my home in case I get slaughtered in my sleep. I'm kind of learning from my mistakes and gaining some life experience. Ghost thing, you can't escape. I grunted coldly. I dialed Yang Mengyun's number on my old cell phone and asked where she was. Yang Mengyun said she was in the hospital now, and I told her not to run around, I'd find her later. Yang Mengyun heard that I still want to find her, a sudden heart trembled, asked me to find her. What else? I did not explain too much, let her stay in the hospital, do not run around. Hanging up the phone, I took out the Bagua mirror, put a pen to the inside of the Bagua mirror and drew a manifestation talisman, recited an incantation, and held the Bagua mirror and shone it into the room. A golden light shot out from the 8 trigrams mirror, and the golden light landed on the ground. Almost instantly something appeared on the clean ground, a dark footprint. The footprints met the light of the 8 trigrams mirror, and they all manifested at once. The footprints are small, from a 3-year-old. All the footprints are half, with only the forefoot and no heel. The footprints crawled in through the window and all the way up to my bed. Kid, you dare to come to my place to sow your wild oats, you've eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. I grunted coldly as I looked at the footprints. I got dressed, grabbed my guy and headed out. I followed the footprints all the way to the house, and the thing climbed in through my yard wall. Exiting the courtyard wall, I tracked my way down, and finally I stopped in front of an intersection. Looking at the sewer manhole cover in front of me, I frowned. The footprints disappeared right here. That little ghost in all likelihood escaped by drilling into the sewer. Humph, I'll let you off the hook for now, soon I'll out you. I looked into the sewer and grimaced, with no thought of drilling into the sewer to find it. The filth in the sewers has a great impact on my Taoism. And the sewers are all over the place, making it difficult to find, and that little kid hiding in just about any place gives me enough trouble. It's a bad deal in terms of time and cost, and more importantly, the guy didn't accomplish his goal, and there's bound to be a next time. I went home and decked out the house with some copper mirrors and token flags. After setting up, I went to the hospital. I had to talk to Yang Mengyun again. When I got to the hospital, Yang Mengyun had just gotten off the operating table. The evil power in her body has been removed by me, and the other injuries can be cured at the hospital. I waited for about half an hour before the doctor agreed to let me into the ward. Yang Mengyun's face had no blood at all, dying, like a different person. What did the doctor say? I asked, casually. The doctor said if I had been 2 days late, I would have been completely dead. Yang Mengyun cried that she had paid a heavy price for her promiscuity. Mage, is there something else? Yang Mengyun inquired, and she was very vain when she saw me coming to her. It's not over on you yet, and there's more than those dead bodies that are harming you. I said. Yang Mengyun rolled her eyes and almost fainted. Her heart couldn't take the news anymore. You don't have to worry too much. I took over your business. I'm sure I'll take care of it. I reassured. But I don't have any money. Yang Mengyun cried, saying that her savings had been put on the cure. I waved my hand and said, I've already charged for this before, and what comes next counts against the previous fee. A gentleman takes what he can get, and I don't consider myself a gentleman, but I have my own work ethic and I don't just dive into money. Yang Mengyun was relieved to hear that there would be no more charges and asked, Mage, tell me, how do you want me to cooperate with you? I pondered for a while and asked, Ms. Yang, do you usually have any enemies with people? After I said that I added, the very vengeful kind. Yang Mengyun thought for a while and whispered, half a year ago I had a grudge against an ex-colleague named Swiling, but we haven't met for half a year. Half a year ago, this Swiling was about to get married to her fiancé, but as a result, Yang Mengyun went to intervene, causing the two families to split up, and then Yang Mengyun also dumped that man. I was also speechless after hearing this. This is a deep hatred. Where is this Zora now? I asked. I heard someone say she's working for a cosmetics company now, so I'll find someone to ask around. Soon Yang Mengyun found Swiling's address. When I left, I gave an amulet to Yang Mengyun. With this amulet, the brat wouldn't dare to come to her. I have to meet that Swiling to see if she did it or not. Let Yang Mengyun harbor a ghost, not a deep hatred cannot do such a thing. Swiling meets this condition. I don't care if you retaliate against Yang Mengyun, but if you retaliate against me, then don't blame me for not being polite. Chapter 8 White Bone Ghost Sign. I looked for it according to the address Yang Mengyun gave me and saw Swiling, who had just gotten off work and was talking and laughing with a few co-workers. I watched her from the shadows, my spiritual pupil's eyes probing her. The woman looked as if she was normal at first glance, but under my spiritual pupil's eye, I quickly noticed something different. In my pupil's eyes, there were strands of black gas overflowing from the top of her head, and that black gas was ghost gas, and her body was covered with a layer of ghost gas, which made her look very hideous and horrible. I let out a cold snort. This woman's hiding is quite secretive, but unfortunately, she can't hide under my spiritual pupil's eye. The ghostly aura on her body was the same as the aura of the little ghost that ran into my house, and the same as the aura of the ghostly fetus in Yang Mengyun's stomach, so it can be proven that both of these brats were messed up by Swiling. This woman's ability is not small, judging from the aura on her body. The little ghost she raised in her hands are not just these two. I muttered to myself. Swiling, all let the little ghost to kill me, must be recognized me, so I did not show up, squatting in the dark, waiting for rabbits. Waiting until after dark, Swiling finally came out of the company, just her. I had a happy look on my face and hurriedly followed. If this woman didn't come out again, I was almost going to kill her on my own accord. Swilling seemed to be in a hurry to meet someone, her pace was fast and she didn't notice me following her. When I followed her to an out-of-the-way location, I accelerated hard and blocked her path. When Swilling saw me, her expression became extremely unnatural, her eyes flickered, and she asked in a deep voice. "Who are you, and why are you blocking my way?" "I don't know you, get out of the way, I'm going to call the police if you don't leave." I sneered. "Fine, call the police, then." Swilling's complexion changed, put her hand into her bag, took a few steps backwards, and stared at me closely as she asked. "Who are you? What do you want?" Seeing this very aggrieved look of Swilling, my heart is a burst of greasy. This woman is also too able to pretend. "Swilling, you've sent ghosts to kill me, why are you still pretending in front of me? Do you think this is interesting?" I grunted. Swilling saw that he couldn't act anymore, so he didn't hide it anymore, looked at me with a resentful face, and growled. "You damned mage, I can't believe your dog's nose is so good that you found your way here so quickly." For my sudden appearance, it made Swilling very shocked. During the daytime she had vaguely sensed something was wrong, and was about to wait for it to get dark and hide for a while, but she didn't expect to be blocked by me at this time. I grunted and droned. "Are you going to ambush yourself, or do you want me to do it?" Swilling looked at me resentfully and yelled lowly, "That slut Yang Mengyun deserves to die. Why do you want to help such an evil person? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog? You stinking mage." My eyelids drooped slightly as I calmly said, "I only deal with matters, I don't ask about personal grudges between you. Yang Mengyun found me and paid me, it's only right that I help her." "So you're determined to go against me?" Swilling roared angrily, and the ghostly aura on her body intensified. "Against you?" I snorted. "You're not worthy of being my opponent yet, you sent the brat to kill me, then you'll have to bear my wrath." "Fine, since you want to die, then I'll fulfill you." Swilling let out a scream as her hand snapped out of her bag. In her hand she held a white bone token, and on that white bone token was carved the design of an evil spirit. The evil ghost pattern was dyed red with blood, making it look extremely hideous and terrifying on that white bone token, giving the impression that it was about to jump out and eat people. Seeing the white bone token in Swilling's hand, my face changed slightly, and I exclaimed in my heart, "This is a white bone ghost token." White bone ghost sign is an extremely evil weapon. It is mainly used to collect ghosts and raise ghosts. The production method of white bone ghost sign is very cruel and bloody. The domino is polished from the skull of a boy who has just turned 1 year old. After the boy's skull is taken down, it has to be placed on the altar and sacrificed with the blood and souls of boys and girls for 77 and 49 days before it can be molded. When sacrificing, the more souls used, the more power the white bone ghost sign possesses, and the more profound the magic power of the evil ghosts raised behind it. Swilling's hands actually have such a white bone ghost sign, so I was very surprised. With Swilling's magic power she could not have such an evil weapon. Instantly I realized a problem. Behind Swilling there should be an evil giant supporting her. This thing should be that person's. Swilling held the white bone ghost sign in her hand, a scowl on her face as she arrogantly laughed at me. "Stinking mage, do you know what this is? Ha ha ha, I've raised several evil ghosts in here. As long as I let any one of them out, I can get you killed. What qualifications do you have to fight me?" I swept a glance at the white bone ghost sign once again, my expression unchanged, and said indifferently, "Do you think you can go against the heavens just because you're holding an evil weapon? Humph, you can let it out to try and see who ends up in bad luck." Swilling's eyes widened as she roared at me, "You forced me to do this, blame yourself if you die." A cold light flashed in my eyes as I flew and quickly pounced towards Swilling. Swilling's reaction speed wasn't too slow, dodging and dodging with a growl, reciting an incantation, and fiercely swinging the white bone ghost sign. In an instant, a dark ghostly aura floated out from the white bone ghost sign, and in that ghostly aura there was a hideous-looking male ghost. "Go, kill him for me," Swilling ordered to the male ghost. "Ho!" The male ghost let out a snarl at me and turned into a stream of light and quickly lunged at me, opening his mouth to try and bite my neck. Judging from the fluctuations emanating from this male ghost, this was a ghost spirit level evil ghost. Determining that he was only at the ghost spirit level, I was relieved. It seemed that Zwilling's white bone ghost sign wasn't as powerful as I thought it was. I backhanded the 8 trigrams mirror in my hand and shone it at the evil spirit, and a stream of golden light directly struck the male ghost. Ow! The male ghost let out a mournful scream. His body was straight up white, and half of his body was instantly smashed. He panicked, screaming and trying to escape back into the white bone ghost sign. I grunted and shined the Bagua mirror at him again, extinguishing the remaining half of his body as well. Is that all you're capable of? I looked at Zwilling with disdain. I was now at the 5th stage of the Yellow Order Mage, and I didn't even put ordinary ghost spirits in my eyes. Zwilling's face changed drastically. There was only one evil ghost in her white bone ghost sign, and now that it was taken out by me, how could she still have the ability to fight me? Since you don't have the ability, then kneel down for me. I droned, probing my hand and grabbing at Zwilling. Just then, a scream rang out, and a figure flew towards me, screaming, "Get out of my way, don't hurt my mom." Chapter 9, The Ghost Suppression Amulet. As the figure flew, it also swept up a cloudy wind, and all the shredded paper scraps on the ground were swept up. The silhouette's speed was fast, and it flew over in an instant, blocking between Zwilling and me. I looked at what was rushing towards me, my eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold look appeared in my eyes. It was not a living person who rushed over at this critical moment, but a little ghost. This brat is not the one that crawled into my house, but a little girl of 8 or 9 years old. The little girl had 2 flowery braids, a floral dress, and little red leather shoes on her feet. The little girl was cute in appearance, but she just had a heavy ghostly aura. She opened her hands and protected Zwilling behind her, anxiously saying to Zwilling, "Mom, go away, I'll stop this bad guy." Zwilling showed joy in her eyes and hurriedly said, "Hua hua, this bad guy is going to kill mommy, you must stop him, otherwise you won't have a mommy." When the girl named Hua Hua heard Zwilling say this, her face changed and she exclaimed, "Mom, you should go, I will try my best to stop him, I will never let him hurt Mom." I sighed in my heart when I saw this scene. What a deep mother-son bond. Zwilling, really damn it. Zwilling glanced at me with a malicious smile in her eyes and fled with her legs. I grunted, how could I let her get away? Fix. I drank, casting a fixing spell on Zwilling, and she immediately stood still, unable to move or even speak. Blossom showed her teeth and a scowl on her face as she screamed at me. "You bad man, why did you hurt my mom? You let my mom go, or I'll fight you." Looking at the brat, I intoned, "Little sister, she's not your mom. She's the bad guy. She used an evil spell to take control of you so that you wouldn't be able to go to hell and reincarnate. She left you in the young world to do harmful deeds for her. This is not right, I can help." "You shut up." Hannah screamed loudly as she covered her ears, her eyes starting to redden. She roared at me, "You're the bad guy, trying to hurt my mom, I'm going to fight you." With that, Hannah charged at me. Fangs bared from her mouth and sharp nails grew from her fingers. I shook my head. This brat is completely mesmerized by Zwilling, it doesn't make sense to reason with her. Seeing the pouncing flower, I grunted and bellowed, "False rope, trapped." As I bellowed, I waved my hand violently and a red rope flew out of my sleeve. The red rope turned into a lightning red light and instantly flew in front of Hua Hua. Hannah screamed and panicked, waving her hand wildly as a way to block my red rope. My red rope is not an ordinary red rope, but one that I have sacrificed with a special secret method, specifically for binding these sinister things. Phew! The red rope was like a spiritual snake, and with a flash of light, it directly wrapped Flower in a knot. Hannah fell to the ground, struggling frantically. The more she struggled, the more the red rope binding her body contracted, and in the end it directly bound her, unable to move the slightest bit. I looked at Hua Hua expressionlessly and said in a cold voice, "Kid, you're not my opponent, so don't make a fearless struggle." "Ah!" Blossom hissed, the mournful sound resounding in the darkness of the night. I looked at her coldly, unmoved. After a few breaths, my expression shifted slightly and my eyes looked in one direction. There was a figure there, a child running quickly. It was a little boy, 2 or 3 years old, with a belly band on. He was the same as Flower, also a brat, and he was attracted by Flower's screams. I grimaced unkindly when I saw the brat. The scent on this brat was familiar to me, the one that ran into my house and tried to rip out my heart. Don't be fooled by this little brat, he may be a tiny little thing, but the ghostly aura on him is much stronger than Flower. Not only was there a layer of ghostly aura shrouding him, there was also a layer of rich blood light shrouding him. It was a kind of blood light that ordinary people couldn't see, that was sticky and disgusting to the extreme. These blood rays are all stained by the people he harms, and every time he kills someone, he gets a blood ray on his body. The blood light is so intense that you can imagine how many people he has killed. No wonder this guy can be out during the day and still avoid my senses, so it really is that extraordinary. On the contrary, Flower, she had no blood on her at all, she was clean, and she hadn't gotten any human blood on her hands yet. Ho! The little ghost growled at me and gave me a horrible look. He showed his teeth, and without warning scarlet blood flowed out of his eyes, and that blood stained his face red. Immediately following, his nose, mouth and ears were bleeding, and bright red blood flowed down his body to the ground, giving off a strong odor of blood. When I saw him like this, my eyebrows furrowed, and the look made me feel uncomfortable and a little hairy inside. Damn stinking mage, how dare you harm my mother, I'll eat you alive. My favorite thing to eat is human eyes and hearts, especially the eyes, which pop and burst all over my mouth when I bite into them. The heart has the best texture, crunchy and sweet. The little ghost grinned sardonically at me, dragging his dripping body towards me slowly. Looking at the brat, there was murder in my eyes. This ghostly thing has killed so many people in the young world, he absolutely cannot be kept in the world, he is not even qualified to go to reincarnation. Kid, you think you can beat me? I said coldly. You're no match for me. As long as I eat you, my mana will become stronger. The little ghost Jijia said, when he was still a foot away from me. With a violent scream, his body flew up, probing his sharp claws and lunging at me. At the moment, this look of his was somewhat like that of an attacking wildcat, frantic and harsh. A cold light flashed in my eyes, and when he pounced in front of me, I violently probed my hand, slapped a yellow talisman out, and shouted, "Ghost-suppressing talisman." The ghost-suppressing talisman flashed with light and was firmly affixed to the little ghost's brow. The ghost-suppressor talisman was filled with the power of the Supreme Yang, specializing in killing evil spirits, and it was more than enough to deal with this little ghost. Ah! The little ghost let out a miserable scream and fell straight out of the air onto the ground. My ghost-suppressing talisman suppressed him to death, he couldn't even pick up a single finger, and could only look at me with an incomparably resentful gaze. Kid, there's no place for you to be wild in front of me yet. I said indifferently. Stinking mage, if you dare to kill me, my master will definitely not let you go, my master's magic power is boundless, your whole family will be killed by my master. The little ghost screamed and shouted threats at me. Chapter 10, Using your head as a drinking vessel. Is that a threat? I looked at the brat with a sneer on my face. I'm a cultivator, a mage, if I'm afraid of the threat of a little kid, then what's the point of cultivating the way? Yes, I am threatening you. You hurry up and let me go, or you'll only die when my master arrives. The kid yelled. He is talking about his master, not his mom Zhueling. His master should be the evil giant behind Zhueling. I laughed and looked at the brat disdainfully, asking with a teasing face, guess if I'll be afraid of your master? Do you guess if I will kill you? The little ghost felt the killing intent in my eyes, his heart fluttered, and he screamed even harder, constantly hanging on to his master. Go to hell. I drank loudly. The old lord in the sky taught me to kill ghosts, with my divine formula, on the call of the Jade Maiden, to collect the ominous rush. I made the Dharma seals with both hands and recited the ghost-killing incantation in my mind, communicating the power of the underworld to kill the ghosts. When the Tao has reached a high level of proficiency, There is no need to recite such complicated incantations. A few words can replace all the incantations, and I don't have that kind of skill yet. With the fall of my ghost-killing spell, the ghost-suppressing talisman that I had suppressed on top of the brat's head burned, and that golden talismanic fire set his body ablaze. Ow! The little ghost let out a mournful scream before its ghostly body exploded into ashes. Heaven has the virtue of good life, and people who practice Taoism usually do not kill ghosts easily. But this thing has plagued so many people in the young world that the heavens will be angry, let alone a person who cultivates the way. Even if it's a loss of merit, I'll destroy that guy. My eyes went to the little brat named Hannah. A slight frown creased his brow. This brat hasn't killed anyone yet, she was compelled and controlled, and her crime is not mortal. I took out a yellow leather gourd from my backpack, and with my right hand and sword finger, I drew a ghost-collecting talisman on the bottom of the yellow leather gourd. Aiming the gourd mouth at Hua Hua, he softly drank. Heaven's gate opens, earth's gate opens, 1,000 miles of children to send souls. I am under the urgent edict of the old lord on the stage, collect. As the word I closed fell, a golden light shot out from the mouth of the gourd. The golden light landed on flour, spun around, and instantly took flour into the gourd. I looked over at Zwilling, collected the fixing spell, and sneered. Zoran, what else do you have to say? Zwilling's tactics have all been used up. Where she still has the ability to resist in front of me, she looked at me with a spiteful gaze and cursed viciously. Stinking mage, you don't distinguish between good and bad people, you shall not die. Kill me if you dare, I won't let you go even as a ghost. I sneered disdainfully. For all the evil she's done, she still wants to take revenge on me after death? It's really laughable. Why are you doing this? Killing is nothing but a headache. Why did you use such a vicious method to torture young Mengyun? I asked drily. Ha 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 ha. Zwilling laughed maniacally, roaring with incomparable resentment. Young Mengyun is a bitch, she stole my man and caused me to be laughed at. Don't you think she deserves to die? At first, that man was about to marry me, but Yang Mengyun was the one who hooked him. Do you know how I humbly begged them at first, but who pitied me? Do you know how they laughed at me at first? Do you know how I got by during that time? You don't know anything, you only know how to stand on the moral high ground and accuse me. You cry out in your mouth to cut down the demons and remove the devils, but in reality, in your heart you are also working for your own personal gain. You are nothing more than a mere mortal. I glanced at Zwilling and said lightly. I only ask about the Een, I don't care about the other grudges. If you feel that young Mengyun has wronged you, you can take a knife to her, but it's your fault if you use evil magic to harm people. I took this job, so naturally I'll manage it to the end. Zwilling shouted and resentfully told what had happened to her. When she was hit like that, she was ready to die, and then someone saved her. The person who saved her is the real owner of this white bone ghost sign. That person taught her some basic evil arts and promised to help her to take revenge. She lives like a walking corpse, helping that person to do harmful deeds. I hate Yang Mengyun, I want her dead. But I can't let her die so easily. I want her to die in fear and pain. I want her to despair and make her pay dearly for her actions. Zwilling roared. I wasn't interested in listening to Zwilling talk about these things and chided. Tell me, who is the evil giant behind you? Where is he now? Zwilling looked at me ho-ho sneer, a face of resentment. Don't daydream about it, I'm not going to tell you. You killed that man's ghost child and destroyed his servants, spoiling his good deed. He will seek revenge on you, just wait for your death, ha ha ha. Zwilling laughed merrily and spitefully, as if she had already seen me being destroyed by the people behind her. I looked at Zwilling with an expressionless face and said indifferently. Now that you're in my hands, do you think it's up to you to say or not to say? In the secret spells my mom taught me, there was a secret spell called soul spitting. This soul-spitting technique is somewhat like the soul-searching technique. As long as the soul-spitting technique is applied to a living person, it will allow the living person to explain all the secrets hidden in their heart. Zwilling's Tao is not as high as mine, I can totally use the soul-spitting technique to make her talk. Zwilling did not fear or panic and sneered at me. Stinking mage, don't daydream, you're not going to get anything out of me. I tell you. As Zwilling's words fell, dark blood flowed out of her 7 orifices, and her vitality quickly dissipated. Seeing her like this, I grimaced and gave a heavy cold snort. The woman had actually committed suicide. She had taken the poison that had been hidden in her mouth for a long time. The poison was so strong that it instantly destroyed her vitality, and it was useless even if a great Luo golden immortal came. Soon I discovered another powerful aspect of this poison. Zwilling's body was actually rapidly rotting and turning into pus. Not only that, Zwilling's soul, that was trying to escape the corpse, let out a similar scream and began to rot as well. In the blink of an eye, Zwilling's body and soul were gone, and there was only a puddle of pus on the ground, with only a white bone ghost sign falling to the side. Seeing this picture, I shivered. This poison is too horrible. It should be the person behind Zwilling gave her. Its purpose should be to not want Zwilling to leave any handle. I instantly raised my guard. This is a master. When I meet him I have to be careful of his underhanded tricks. It would be bad if I fall in the gutter. I put the white bone ghost sign away and went home. Right at the moment Zwilling killed herself. Somewhere in Longjiang City, a pair of scarlet gazes lit up in the darkness as a low growl sounded. How dare you kill my servants and ghost children? Just you wait, I'll find you soon. I'll use your head on the wine vessel and your soul to light the lanterns of heaven. I'll let you know that offending me, Black Fox, will only lead to death.